Hello, welcome to the You at Your Best podcast. I'm your host, Morgan. Have you ever been in a situation where you were having a conversation with someone and you leave the conversation thinking, why did I say that? Why did I share that much information about myself? Oh my God, this person thinks I'm so weird. This person probably felt so uncomfortable. This person is going to go tell people about how weird I am, and then everyone's going to think I'm weird. If you've ever experienced any of those feelings, this episode is for you, because I am going to be talking about oversharing, why we do it, how to stop doing it, and why trauma and anxiety plays a huge role in this. I have 3 specific reasons that I'm going to be sharing. Those reasons are very common and something that a lot of people experience, but I'm aware that there is more than what I am talking about today. These are just things that I have experienced and I feel like I can share insight on. And I also, before I get into the episode, want to say that even though I'm sharing these tips and I'm sharing ways to stop oversharing, it doesn't mean that I don't do it, because I'm human and I still sometimes overshare without meaning to. I just don't beat myself up over it anymore. And I think that's really important and something that I want to say before we get into this episode. Whenever you overshare, please don't beat yourself up for it, because it's completely normal. So the very first step is to understand why. The first one is that we feel uncomfortable. We're in a conversation and we have this anxiety and all we can think about is, I got to think of the next thing to say. We're not thinking critically because our brain is so overpowered with anxiety. Maybe we're in a situation or a conversation where we don't really know what to say, or we feel kind of uncomfortable in the silence, so we just start oversharing or talking to someone about something that we know deep down we probably don't need to share with this stranger or person that we barely know. That often stems from anxiety, specifically social anxiety. And then the next reason is loneliness. Maybe we never really had a safe person to go to with what we're dealing with and the emotions that come up, and we are looking for connection. If we don't have people to go to, as humans, we're going to seek connection in any way that we can, even if it's subconscious. So we may subconsciously seek connection through trying to share things about ourselves with other people. And we think like, why did I do that? A lot of the time it's just because we're lonely and we need someone. It's human nature to need someone. If we're not putting things out and getting things out of our body, getting emotions, experiences out, it builds up so much to the point to where it starts leaking out. Because we feel like we never had anyone in childhood to have that connection, so we're trying to find those people and we're trying to connect through that way. Or because in the time that we're currently at in our lives, maybe we're a little bit lonely and we feel like we don't really have people to go to talk about these things, or with the people that we have, we don't feel safe enough or we don't know how to approach it. And then the next reason kind of builds off of the second reason. It's because it feels easier to go to strangers than to go to the people that we're close to. It feels maybe less harsh if they judge us. This usually comes from a deep-rooted belief that maybe we're expendable in our relationships, that we don't have inherent worth, that if we go to the people that we care about with what we're struggling with, maybe they won't want to be friends with us anymore. Maybe they'll think that we're too much and push us to the side. And a lot of the time, oversharing actually reinforces this. If we overshare with someone that we care about and we haven't thought about what's going on, we don't really understand what's going on, we're just talking and venting, but not venting productively, it often makes that person feel uncomfortable. And if we continuously keep on doing that, they will kind of push us away, which will reinforce our belief that we are expendable. And that's why it's so important to stop oversharing, because we aren't bad for oversharing. It's a very normal human behavior, a normal response. There's nothing to be ashamed of about it. But at the same time, it can make other people feel uncomfortable and could be contributing to our social anxiety, again, because it reinforces that belief that we are weird or socially anxious or we are expendable or we aren't good enough. An example that I have, one time whenever I was at work, I was talking to my coworkers and we were just like having conversations. I started to feel a little bit anxious and uncomfortable since I didn't have the tools that I have now. Instead of taking a pause on the conversation and thinking, I just kept on trying to make myself feel better by how uncomfortable it was whenever it would become silent. And whenever we would stop talking, or out of the three of us, there wouldn't be anything to say. So I started oversharing about my OCD. And at the time I wasn't diagnosed. I'm officially diagnosed now. But I just started like oversharing so much about it. So many things that those people probably didn't want to hear. I started talking about how whenever I was younger, I had this belief in my head that if I didn't hide from cars that were driving by, if I was outside, if the car saw me by the time they got to where they could see me when I was at my house, if I wasn't hiding from them and they saw me, then that would mean that my entire family was going to die. I kept on like telling them things like that, and I could tell that they kind of felt a little bit uncomfortable, but they were trying to also make me feel okay. Whenever I said it, I had like a knot in my throat, and it probably sounded like I was trying not to cry or I was holding back a cry. It wasn't that, it was my anxiety. But to them, it probably sounded like I was trying to hold back a cry. And I think it made them feel really uncomfortable and really bad for me. So they tried to make me feel better, but at the end of the day, they were uncomfortable. And then they didn't really want to talk to me anymore. So that's an example I have of oversharing. And that instant, since I didn't have the tools that I have now, it reinforced my belief about myself that I am weird. So now I'm going to share the tools that I have now that if I had then, it wouldn't have been so hard. The tools that I have now for each different thing that I've experienced. The first one is whenever we feel uncomfortable in the situation, basically social anxiety. So the first thing is take a pause. I know whenever you're anxious, it's so hard to pause. It's so hard to take a second because our mind is telling us we have to keep on producing words and we have to keep on keeping the conversation going. But I promise you, if you pause for a second and try to be present with yourself, it makes it so much easier for you to then continue the conversation without overthinking. So if you think of something to say, pause for a second and think, is this something that I want to share with this person? Or is this something that I'm sharing because I feel uncomfortable? Try to get into the habit of being intentional with what you say and only talking whenever you truly have something to contribute to the conversation that matters. If it's something that doesn't need to be said and you find that you're only saying it because you want to find the next thing to say or you feel a little bit uncomfortable by the silence, don't say it. Just tell yourself, I am not going to say things if I feel uncomfortable. It will take time and it will take practice. There will be times where you're so anxious that you forget to do this and you overshare anyways, and that's okay. Progress is more important than perfection. Don't beat yourself up or shame yourself if you accidentally slip with this one. Just simply notice that you messed up and move on. You can do better next time. The next one that I have for if you're oversharing because of social anxiety, you are in that situation where you can feel that you're anxious and you're so overwhelmed and you are starting to think, oh my God, I'm going to overshare. Try to prepare a couple of neutral topics that you can talk about. Write in your phone notes or write down on a piece of paper some ideas that you have and go over them before you go into a conversation. Obviously, this can't happen all the time, but just kind of go over them over time, like maybe once a day, look at them. If you feel that you're going to overshare or you start to feel that anxiety and you don't have the ability to calm yourself down in the moment, you have that tool to use those things instead of oversharing. And this is a tool that over time, the more self-compassion you have and the more you practice, the less you will need it. But for times that are really hard, and you're so anxious that you just can't bring yourself to not overshare, use these tools and these neutral topics. Okay, the next tip is after the conversation, if you ended up oversharing, remind yourself, it's okay, I am okay, and for next time, I don't need to explain everything to be liked. A lot of the time we overshare because we think we need to explain every single reason why we did something or why we believe something. For example, if you really like Taylor Swift, you explain every single reason why you like Taylor Swift. Like, I like Taylor Swift because I like her lyrics and I like how much she talks about things that a lot of people don't talk about. I like that she has a lot of different songs about different things. I like that a lot of what she talks about I relate to. Like, you don't have to share every single reason why you like Taylor Swift. You can just say, I like Taylor Swift. And if they ask why, of course you can share those reasons, but you don't have to go in it with sharing those reasons, because that's going to make someone feel really uncomfortable. So before you go into conversations and after a conversation, remind yourself each time, and each time you'll get better and better. Just tell yourself, I do not have to share things to be liked. I do not have to over-explain to be liked. I will be liked by just saying what I like, and if they ask further questions, then I can answer, but I do not need to initially go straight into every single reason why I like something or don't like something. Okay, and then the last tip that I have for if you're oversharing for anxiety, and honestly this one could work for all of them too, if you were in a situation where you did overshare, journal the moment that you overshared, not through shame, but to just notice your patterns. Keep a list in your phone, just write down what you overshared about, what the conversation was about, what triggered it, what part of the conversation you overshared in, and just keep logs and keep track of every time you overshare. Just write it down and understand why, so that over time you can kind of understand the reason why you overshare. Whenever you understand your triggers, you can prepare for whenever those times come up in the future. The next reason that I have is you overshare because of loneliness. The first tip that I have for this, and what you can do whenever you start to overshare because you're feeling lonely, is to start creating micro connections with people in your life, not through trying to overshare, but through small talk. Again, just like with the anxiety, have a list of things that you want to talk about. Try to stay calm and remind yourself that whenever you are connecting with this person, you do not have to connect with them. If you end up not connecting with them, that's okay. You can move on to the next person. If you end up not clicking with this person, that's okay. This person does not have to like you. And if they don't like you, that's okay. There's someone else that will like you for who you are. And if you do overshare, again, it's okay. But our goal is to, over time, stop oversharing as much. So whenever you are trying to connect with people, have a list of things that you could talk about. Even like something that I like to do, and that really helps me, is just in my phone notes, writing down things that I like and things that I enjoy. Because sometimes in the moment, I just kind of freeze and I forget what I like. So have a list of things, topics that you could talk about, so that you're talking about yourself and things that you like, so that you can connect with that person. Also, a really easy way to connect with someone is to just listen to them and just validate their experience. And I know sometimes it can get irritating if someone overshares a lot, but if you are in a conversation with them and you start to see that maybe they're oversharing, validate whatever they're talking about. Just say like, yeah, that's really hard. And that also takes the pressure off of you whenever you're validating them and listening to them, because you don't have to be the one to talk. You just get to listen. And again, this can be micro connections. It doesn't have to be this big extravagant thing. You don't have to go out to a party or put yourself in situations that are going to cause panic attacks or intense anxiety. Just micro connections. And whenever you are going to go to work, for example, just like places that you go on the everyday basis, if you're going to go to work and you have something that's on your mind or something that's going on, journal about that. Journal about things that are going on. Try to understand them the best that you can before you go into work. That way, whenever you are talking to someone, if you do start to overshare, you kind of understand it from a better perspective, and maybe that'll make them feel less uncomfortable with your oversharing in general. The next one could be going into therapy if you're feeling lonely. I know that can be really hard and it creates a lot of anxiety, but I am in therapy and it really does help. It really helps to have someone to talk to. And I know sometimes we can't afford it, and I understand that, but if you can afford it, and if this is something that you think will help you, try it. Just try going into therapy, try talking to someone about what's going on. A lot of the time, even if you're oversharing or being so overwhelmed, a therapist is trained to understand and to help you. So you don't have to worry about thinking, oh, I'm so stupid, I make people so uncomfortable, or anything like that whenever you're going into therapy, because that's the therapist's job. And then the last one I have is to just tell yourself positive affirmations. If you're going into a situation, for example, if you're going to work and you feel lonely, maybe you feel like you're not connecting with anyone and you want to connect with your coworkers, but you don't really know how to. I've had that experience so many times. I go into work, I want to connect with them, but they're not really talking to me and I don't know how to talk to them. Before you go in, just tell yourself positive affirmations. You could tell yourself, I deserve real connection. I am not weird. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm human. Everyone understands to a certain extent. And if I do mess up, that's okay. I still love myself regardless. If this person doesn't like me, that's okay. I like myself. And just tell yourself all of these things. Remind yourself of these things. You can keep a list of positive affirmations in your phone. I know some people say that affirmations don't really help, but they really do. They truly do. And if you keep on reminding yourself and saying it over and over again, you can kind of train your brain to start believing that, especially if you start seeing evidence that that's true. Okay, and then the last one, if you overshare because strangers feel safer, the first tip I have is to notice if what you're sharing is kind of like a test to that other person, a subconscious test to see if they will accept you for who you are if you share certain things. There can be times where we, without even realizing that we're doing it, subconsciously overshare with someone because we are trying to see if they will accept us for who we are, and we're so scared that they're going to reject us that we subconsciously try to test them. And a lot of the time we don't realize that we're doing this, and it takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to understand if you are doing this or not. So don't beat yourself up if you don't know right away, but just after the conversation or even during it, just sit there and think, why am I doing this? Or why did I do this? Is it a test to see if they will accept me, or is it me sharing something because I truly wanted to share it? Another thing could be to try sharing a little bit less than you normally would. You can still overshare, but try sharing a little bit less over time. And my tip that I had before with journaling first really helps with this, because you can understand what's going on a little bit better, which means that you're more likely to share less. And the next one is to build safety in the relationships that you already have by slowly introducing your issues without oversharing those issues, like the Taylor Swift example that I had. Just slowly build safety in those relationships that you already have so that over time it kind of changes the narrative in your head, and instead of reinforcing the idea or belief that you're inherently wrong or bad, it over time starts to reinforce the idea that these people care about me and these people love me and this person wants what's best for me. And the last one that I have, and this is for all three, it's that being understood starts with understanding yourself. A lot of the time we overshare, not because we're annoying or wanting attention, it's because we want to feel seen, understood, and accepted. But the best way for us to feel seen, understood, and accepted is for us to understand ourselves first. And the biggest thing, the biggest tip that I can give overall to anyone that overshares, have self-compassion. You can't make change without first being compassionate with yourself. You have to remind yourself that if you mess up, it's okay. The fact that you are noticing it and noticing that pattern, that proves that you have been progressing and that you are getting better with this situation. And that is something to celebrate. If you notice that you overshared, that is already a step towards your journey to stop oversharing. And I know all of this is a lot. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're just thinking, this is a lot and I don't have the energy for it, then just stop. Don't do anything to try to better yourself, just rest. Because something that I have had to learn is that a lot of us, we want to do more. We want to do the next best thing. We constantly want to fix things and better ourselves. And while that's a really great quality to have, it's also so important that if we are overwhelmed or exhausted in any way, we rest, because you can't properly better yourself and do better if you're not properly rested. If any of this information that I shared in this podcast is overwhelming, that isn't a sign that you're not doing enough. It's a sign that you need to rest. And rest until you are ready to come back and listen to this and you are excited for the growth. Until then, don't even think about it. Before I end the episode, I want to share this week's journal prompt. It's a question. What are things that I want other people to know about me? And how can I share those things with people more intentionally? How can I be more intentional with what I'm saying and what I'm sharing about this thing? That's it for this week's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you could, please give me a 5-star review. Please share my podcast with people that you think it would help, people that you love. Share it on your Instagram story. Comment on my Instagram post. Comment on this podcast episode on Spotify. And if you want to, you could just comment like, this episode helped me so much. I know for me, a lot of the time I get so scared to comment that stuff because I'm just like, oh, I don't know if this person's gonna think I'm weird. But promise you, if you are like me, it's gonna make me feel comforted. And if you comment something, even if you're oversharing, it's going to make me feel so good and so grateful for you for listening, and also just so proud of my podcast. And it's going to motivate me to want to do more and to want to help people out in ways that I needed help in the past and I couldn't really find that help. Again, this was an insight episode. I literally just planned it. I kind of just planned it off my head. I was going through my list of episode ideas I had, and it said how to stop oversharing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And I stuck to it and I did it. And I'm so proud of myself for that. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next Sunday.